We pick up our phones about 58 times a day. Because a single logo sits on the back, we tend to assume Apple or Samsung manufactures the entire object in-house. This map shows the reality. Your phone is a miniaturized global metropolis, built by roughly 2,500 different suppliers scattered across the planet. Right now, that massive network is under extreme stress. If you've shopped for an upgrade recently, you felt it in the rising retail price. Economists call this the global value chain. Instead of one country building a product from start to finish, the work is fragmented. Nations hyper-specialize, handling incredibly narrow stages of production. To find out why the technology in our pockets is getting more expensive and why the global supply lines are starting to fracture, we have to physically tear a device apart. We start by removing the outer shell and peeling back the OLED screen. Immediately, we hit a massive physical footprint. Manufacturing these internal components requires mining 16 of the 17 rare earth elements. In fact, a single smartphone utilizes roughly 80% of the entire periodic table. This stacked chart breaks down the phone's carbon footprint. Notice that the emissions from charging and using the device for years are dwarfed by the production phase. 80% of a smartphone's lifetime CO2 is emitted before you even turn it on. Extracting these materials leaves lasting scars on local geography, displacing ecosystems and generating toxic slurry lakes. The pristine glass in our hands requires moving mountains of earth and chemicals. Our digital lives carry a heavy physical toll. Digging deeper, we find the brain. The system on a chip crams the primary processor, graphics, and artificial intelligence circuits onto a single slice of silicon no larger than your fingernail. Processing AI requires massive amounts of high-performance memory chips, specifically DRAM and NAND. Right now, data centers are buying up that memory at a premium to fuel the global AI boom. Because the world's largest chip makers are prioritizing highly profitable data center contracts, smartphone manufacturers are fighting over a depleted supply of standard memory chips. Those increased costs are passed directly to the consumer. Compounding that shortage is geography. The most advanced semiconductors powering today's flagship phones are overwhelmingly manufactured by a single company, TSMC, on the island of Taiwan. The central processing power of our modern economy relies on an incredibly fragile geopolitical choke point. Once the raw materials are extracted and the silicon is fabricated, the fragmented pieces finally converge on an assembly line. Vietnam has rapidly emerged as a primary hub for this final stage. By tapping into the global value chain, the country bypassed the need to build a domestic technology industry from scratch, instead hyper-specializing in final assembly. This graph tracks Vietnam's electronics exports. In 2025, the figure crossed $164 billion, transforming rural provinces. But overlaying local profit margins reveals a problem. While volume is massive, domestic firms are stuck in low-value assembly roles, heavily dependent on imported components. The global value chain reliably engineers economic miracles for developing nations, but it often traps those same economies at the bottom rungs of the value ladder. Reassembling the device reveals its true nature, a dense cluster of physical connections tethering Taiwan, Vietnam, and mining operations across the global south. That linear system, extracting materials, shipping components across continents, and eventually discarding the product, is failing. Volatile shipping routes and geopolitical trade wars are breaking the chain. Globally, we recycle only 15% of our smartphones. The rest filter into a growing 50 million-ton mountain of electronic waste. Solving this requires shifting to a circular economy. Instead of continually mining the earth for rare elements, manufacturers must repair, refurbish, and extract raw materials directly from our old, discarded technology. We have mapped out an economic miracle. Now the industry must figure out how to bend a destructive, linear supply chain into a sustainable loop.